Mr. Surya Prakash Mohapatra. Thank you, sir. Very special, great HR leader today, Mr. Surya Prakash Mohapatra. Have a big applause to Mr. Surya Prakash. Thank you, sir, for joining us in. He's currently the Global Head Talent Transformation at Wipro Digital Operation and Platforms. He's having 25 plus years of experience in various leadership roles in the several leading IT and ITES organizations. Prior to Wipro, he worked in Hewlett Packard, Microland, and First Rank, and many more organizations. Surya sir set up a global training function for Wipro BPO, which spanned across 10 locations in Brazil, Mexico, Romania, Poland, China, and India. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us in. And without further delay, I'd like to give to you for this stage, and we can start our panel discussion. Thanks, sir. I'd like to request our delegates to kindly note down our questions, since we can gather all the questions throughout this session, and throughout this session we can entertain the queries as well. You have pen and paper in front of you. Let's write it down. I'll hand it over to Surya sir. Thanks.
Thank you, Nipun. We're talking about the learning curve today, so I'm just creating a slide curve. Thank you, Nipun, for this beautiful introduction. I must thank Mr. Nagan Gowda for doing my job beautifully, because I would have, as a moderator, would have said the context, but he has said the context already. So I really don't have to set the context. And in the interest of time, you can head into the panel discussion quickly. I think we have definitely a limitation in terms of time. But I think this is a fantastic occasion, and we have a great topic, and we have a panel of iconic HR, L&D, and talent acquisition leaders with us. We're going to talk about this interesting topic, which is future of L&D, how to stay ahead of the learning curve. So as Mr. Nagan talked about the change, there's change happening everywhere. And the change that is happening across the globe in the industry has its impact at the workplace, at work itself, and on the workforce. And now the question today is how L&D is going to prepare the workplace and the workforce and the work itself for the future. As we talk about gig economy, as we talk about millennials and the alphas, kind of coming into the workplace, as we talk about new business models emerging every day, new technologies, as we talk about the skill gap, and in a world when skill is the new currency, how is L&D going to prepare organizations and the workforce for the future? And what L&D is going to do differently to stay ahead of the curve? I would start this question. I would start the panel discussion by asking one common question to all the panelists. And also, I would like to remind you that Nipun answering them. So now the question for all of you, maybe we can start with Ritu. And then the question, then we'll probably go in the same order. The question is, given the change that is happening in the industry, how L&D in your organization, how L&D in your industry changing, transforming, what is happening in your space? If you can give us a quick 2-3 minute context about, what is changing, what is happening in this space, and then, that'll help us set the ball rolling. So, Preeti, if you can start with you.
So thank you, Surya sir, for this question. Not from an L&D background, but always been close to the L&D team because I run campus hiring, the campus to corporate programs. What's happening in our space? Well, last year it was, so yes, we all know after COVID, it became to working in hybrid model. Even the training, even the L&D space came up with the hybrid ways of training. What's happening right now in our space is that how I'm just talking from I know there's a larger pool internally. There's a lot of discussions around how we can upskill, reskill people, how we can make them relevant with this new recession hitting in, how we can have lesser people on bench, how we can, what we were training, will that work or not? So there's a lot of work happening around that. But what I can add is closely working right now with the learning and development team to see, so we have this program called Learn Before Joining for freshers, how we could make it relevant. And it was not easy like how it was earlier where we had one kind of training for everybody. It's more gone to reading their resumes, seeing what skills they already have, how we can make relevant content so that we still grab their attention. So I think these are some of the changes that are happening, how we can make it experiential, how we can bring your blend with, with videos, self-learning modules, and instructor-led sessions as well. So these are some of the changes we are also working on. We are adapting to this basis the current changes that are happening.
If you can.
Very good evening to all. So I represent a business conglomerate who is primarily into mining, steel, pelletization, industrial gases. Prior to that, I was a part of Tata Group, Tata Steel and Tata Motors, automotive, steel structure, and also aluminum sector. If I look to the current business landscape, I find there are positive sentiments because in the next 7 years, we want to expand our business. Given these mandates, there is a close correlation between human capital strategy along with the business strategy and which is to be reflected in our L&D strategy. So the key major mandates at this juncture of time is quite challenging for L&D. First thing is that you develop successor for the critical roles. Internally, you move talents to different businesses. Identify their competencies through planned way of assessment development center. Create learning pathwork for everybody, customize it, give focused attention. Having said this, what is really amazing to see the engagement of the HR and L&D team with the C-suite level has increased like anything. Investment is not an issue. There is positive sentiment, so the technology will come up. But what is more important is that business is worried to actually gauge the effectiveness of the learning and development interventions. So the way whatever process we administer, be it a performance management system, be it a change management system, be it a digital transformation system, I find the L&D people, they are taking a lead role and they are working closely with the business managers to impact that change in a very, very productive way. Because our type of people are different. We are talking of different type of people, different type of skills. Maybe there are different examples. I want to give one simple example. One category of people who are saying they are a T type. They have domain expertise in 1 to 2 areas or broad understanding in another 3 to 4 areas. Another may be a I type who is having a specialism in one area. And another category is V type who are constantly upgrading their skills. So how actually L&D can give focused attention to all these type of employees for their effective retention, for their effective engagement. So it is a conglomerate. It is really challenging times coming for us for the next 7 years to come, where actually we are not only implementing meaningful interventions, also we are accountable to the C-suite for the effectiveness. Thank you, sir.
The T type and the V type, and then where L&D should really focus on is the V type.
Sir, to be very honest with you, each type is having certain strengths. So if I talk about the I type, they are the domain experts. So actually we need to build their specialism in their particular domain area. But V type means here actually we want to rotate people across functions where they want to augment their skills in the related areas. For example, somebody working in finance wants to be a part of business development.
Yeah.
Somebody working in HR wants to be part of law function, legal function. There the type of the V comes and we want to constantly upgrade their skills through our process of assessment and development.
Brilliant. Siju, if you can share your perspective.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Yeah, so I represent the startup ecosystem currently, right? And if I had to say what's happening in the startup ecosystem with all the funding winter, I'm sure we have heard this term, funding winter, which doesn't really impact the multinationals much, but then impacts a little more the startup ecosystem, right? And then when it comes to L&D, what we have seen in the past, wherein companies, including startups, where surplus budgets are there, you will get into L&D initiatives without sometimes without much of a thought process, right? But currently, what is happening is that we are looking at initiatives, and again, it's in the entire startup ecosystem. The L&D initiatives will be much more curated, tailor-made to the different talent pool which we have, right? I mean, it doesn't happen that you have one shoe fit all kind of an approach, right? You need to have something for the entry level people. You have tech related training programs. You need to have something for the first line managers, and then you need to have something for the leadership, right? You have to build the successes in the pipeline. So what's happening right now is a very focused approach towards L&D, and also to ensure how do we relate it both to the employees and to the employer, right? I mean, there has to be ROI on each penny spent. So that also is something which is carefully evaluated, and post which the L&D designs and programs are curated. Yeah.
Excellent. Rahul?
Good evening, everyone. So I represent a small finance bank. So our challenges, and the quantum is very, very different, because we cater different part of it, the society, as well as the different socioeconomic strata. So if we talk about our regular banking process, so it's the parallel banking, but we are also catering to those people who are deprived from the regular banking system. So our internal and external customer, their expectation and the participants or the people are totally different. And post VUCA world, or the post, you can say, the pandemic, we are feeling that yes, we get over from that pandemic, but it impacts, or it change or alters our thought process. It's not only now we are focusing into the customized content, but also we are focusing in what our staff or our people, learners want to learn, and how they want to learn. It's not only their choice, but the how they want to learn, because during this period, once people are stuck in, because as a bankers, it's essential service. COVID never happened to us. We are always in the field, and we are always in the offices with the different strategies. So it alters kind of a, it develops a new kind of a habits. So while driving, our frontliners or field people, they are restricted to listen something, but now they're actually plug in their headphones into their head, and they're just driving and all. So we need to elaborate first. And the second thing is the span of focus, it's reduced drastically. So as I rightly, I was just, sir, you're talking about our challenges, because yes, span of attention drastically reduced, and focus to somewhere, it's such a difficult task nowadays. We have to try to invent, or we try to involve lots of things, like first, whatever method and methodology you try to inculcate, classroom training, virtual sessions, self-learning pace, and then now it's not a augmented reality or something. Now it's AI based. Okay, so we invent our bot system, okay, where people really wanted to know only the challenging areas. They don't want to know the entire story, so that whatever they're stuck, or wherever they're feeling challenged, we just wanted to bridge those gaps. So now augmented reality based training and the simulation based training, as well as while engaging these people into their mindset. If I talk about a core rural area into the some part of UP or Bihar, okay, they are very much fond of listening radios. So we collaborated with our knowledge partners, and a Mumbai-based company helped us to their voice artists. So we created some kind of audio clippings where if a person says आवाज की दुनिया के दोस्तों को लड्डू लाल वीला का प्यार भरा नमस्कार, आइए सुनते हैं कुछ financial talks, and it's along with the music and all, it actually triggers. So with this 2 minutes or 3 minutes knowledge nuggets, it's working for us. So now it's an entirely different scenario, and we have to be very, very innovative and flexible towards the new technology without losing our parallel or the existing structure. So that is what.
Thank you very much, Rahul. I think these learning nuggets are definitely powerful. I think I'm glad that you're using them. In the academics, they say, you must find answers to questions. But in the corporate world, it is important to ask the right questions, right? And we are still waiting for the questions from all of you. Hopefully they would come to us very soon, because asking the right question in the corporate is extremely important. Ritu, I would like to ask this question to you. With technology changing rapidly, with new business models emerging, I think Mr. Nagan Gowda also talked about agility on the part of L&D. What are you doing, or what are the best industry best practices? How L&D can quickly churn out training programs, at a rapid pace, because gone are the days when we had enough time to design, develop, run pilots, etc. Today we don't have the time, because by the time we go through the entire cycle, the technology has changed. So would you like to share any thoughts on that?
What I can share about this is that this was a pilot that we ran, and a great success internally. While I know L&D team has this responsibility of working closely, designing content, and making it relevant. So it's no more like everybody said, it's no more one size fit all, right? It's more customized, it's more relevant, and it's more experiential to your audience. We tried this very vague idea. It was Learnathon series, but we came up with, like Sir said, the attention span is very short, and the tech talks has been a good hit. We came up with a 6-minute series, topics, and what we leveraged was the talent which was already existing beyond L&D, beyond internal instructors, facilitators, I would say. What we saw, this was a big hit when there was a peer learning thing that got established. So we came up with this series. So one is this, where you outsource some of your programs and you have people working on it. So you have extended. So that's one thing we used internally to ensure that we make it more relevant, and we work on a faster space. And that was a big success, even from a perspective that the attendance also, people did not miss this 6-minute talk series, and we ran. So we started with very generic topic, went deep dive into more technical, and then we started seeing how there were groups that got created. People started sharing, used internal platforms to exchange ideas, throw problems, solve, and things like that. So that's what I would say was a big success for us.
Yeah, I like this 6-minute series that you talked about. And I also like the idea of outsourcing beyond L&D, and sometimes crowdsourcing as well. That can be very helpful. I think I would like to ask this question to Debabrat. There's a question that has come from the audience, an interesting question. With just so many options being available, there are institutions, there are MOOCs providers like Coursera, Udemy, and so on. There are short-term courses, long-term courses, online, offline. How, as a learner, how do you decide what to learn when there are so many options available?
Very, very interesting question. So if I am a learner and based on my experience as a CHRO, or earlier I have also taken up a role of a CLO, both the role I have taken up. What I have found is that generally a learner, looks for continuous improvement if he is very serious about his or her development. So generally they prefer a process-based interventions where it is a mixed blend. Like our keynote speaker has rightly said, for effective learning interventions, even if there are multiple sources, every learner wants to know primarily prior to his development what stage he is. That we call a baseline assessment. So once the baseline assessment is known to the learner, I think it is very important for him or her to decide where she or he will go. What is the destination point? So mixed blend methodology for effective learning, it starts from a baseline assessment that we do prior to the learning. There are different methods. We give them a lot of pre-reading materials from multiple sources. But what is more important that how he is connecting. I can give an example. Like we run a program on process excellence. It's very important for operating plan, mines and all the units. This talk about Lean, Six Sigma, all these advanced concepts. Here, what I found is that generally learner like the micro modules, micro learning modules, because they complete, one module for a duration of, 5 to 10 minutes. They go for assessment. They again test whether they have understood. This is one example. Second example, they also look for experiential kind of learning, which is important because we have done a lot of experiential workshop where we design one activity and then we extract ideas from the learner. Is there a better way to do it? Take the example of a performance conversation workshop. Here we tell them these are the ideal ways. You can show a video, but once you do a role play through a experiential learning, where actually we give the opportunity to the learner to exhibit the behavior and others are observing also, they can also contribute what better way the person can actually do that role play. So I must say it must appeal to you. You must know where you are right now, where you want to go. It should be micro module. It should be very short. It should be smart. And every time you must assess your learning. Where do you stand and what is the next step?
Yes, I think Ritu wants to add
A
something.
very recent experience may sound very silly. I wanted to do a course to just upskill myself, and I was sitting and struggling on it. Spoke to my 9-year-old daughter. She said, "Why don't you Google, find out the courses, see the ratings, and see maximum people who have attended that course?" I did that, and that was a hit. So I think that I learned from like Sir said, learning how to learn. I knew I could do that, but I was still struggling whether I go to LinkedIn or Udemy or Coursera. And I was talking to friends, but she just made it easy for me in 5 minutes. That just go Google it, see the course, see the rating, and see the that maximum number of subscribers or learners have taken it, and just do it.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant example. I think thank you, Devbrat and Ritu. Especially what Ritu said is something very interesting. In organizations, we have this concept of reverse mentoring. I think it's important that we start talking to the younger people in an organization and find out what are their likes and dislikes. Because sometimes we think we know what is the best for them, but they may have a completely different idea. But thank you. Thanks both of you for this beautiful narrative on this. There's a question. Should the current curriculum in colleges and universities should that sync with the industry requirement? Do you agree that skill building should happen right in the college and institutions? Rahul, would you like to pick up this question?
So yes, in our segment where we always find out new talents, new skills, and the students. Okay, the beauty of this generation is they are the generation who plug in their ear pods in their ears. They are chewing their bubble gum or some chewing gums, and they're performing very complex things, because in our learning mode, we are in the same age bracket. So in our era, we learned in a very isolated world. But this generation is having a different kind of approach, and their skill set, specific skill set, what they want. Okay, with this knowledge set, once they complete their regular learning, they also develop some kind of prejudices. So once they landed into our new world or the practical world, there are some sort of mismatches. Some mismatches means their perceptual thinking as per the reality, it doesn't match nowadays, and the gap is more higher. So we need to skill these people in terms of what they really want and where they are up to. So, and the perception is they're very quick. They really want to, take things and get into the result in a very shorter time span, which doesn't work. Okay, so if you learn something which is very complex, but in the organization level, we cannot assign that complex task to you. So there is some simple to complex methodology where gradually you learn those things. So where the disconnect is, and where our uh, in the system, the education system may train the new resources that don't carry any mindset. Just be flexible, chip in yourself within the system, try to analyze, understand the system first, and then you know try to do something which is your own. And that is what we are feeling like that, and we are suffering that the average span with the organization reduced drastically. Because once a very young chap in our organization, is last week's scenario, where a young chap came to me and he was very disheartened and said, "Sir, I respect you a lot, but whatever is committed to me during my interview, it is not fulfilling. So I'm just analytics ka banda, and they're asking me to prepare some Excel. So, and I don't want to stick here because I'm not able to cater whatever I learned. So that is how the mental blockage is there. So definitely we need to work on those things.
I think that's both industry and academia really need to work. Hello. I think organizers have decided that the best way to give a hint that it's time is switch off the mic of the moderator so they can't speak anymore. So this question is for Siju. A very interesting question. There is a widening skill gap, and we have digital learning in our organizations. Is it really helping? Is it really helping in bridging the skill gap? What organizations are doing to bridge the skill gap, the widening skill gap?
Right. So, can you hear me? Yep, great. So, as I mentioned earlier, right? I mean, I've seen both sides of the industries in terms of being there for more than a decade in the multinationals and as also in the startup ecosystem for the last 4-5 years. Right. What I've seen how L&D has evolved from time. Right. I mean, when you go to a multinational firm where you have high profitability, budgets are never a constraint. A lot of times, and I'm not generalizing this, but a lot of times what I've seen is that there are training programs which are designed, or a bucket list of training programs for a calendar year, without giving too much of a thought process, right? I mean, the whole idea is it to put a tick in the box and then have a calendar, have a list of training programs throughout the year and ensure how we can drive adoption or participation, right? I mean, that is the more or the KRA rather than ensuring how effective the training program is, right? I think coming to the same question, right? I mean, how effective these training programs are and how can it help narrowing down the skill gap, right? What actually the organization needs and if the talent pool which is there in the organization is able to deliver that, right? So things have changed, right? From a decade ago where it was just putting a tick in the box and ensuring maximum attendance without really looking at what exactly is the effectiveness and the return of investment there, right? Today's world, I don't think, I mean, even if you have to push it, the millennials or the alpha generation, we are not really bothered, right? There were times where companies used to, and I think they're still doing it, where you link minimum number of training programs to your performance management. So that, okay, at the end of the year, if you have to get a good rating, a number of trainings are also part of it, right? Now, nobody's looking at how effective those training programs are or how effectively the individual was able to implement or execute those trainings or learnings in his or her job role, right? So, so today's world, it's more about how we can narrow down this gap. Is basically by doing training need analysis. I'm sure this term TNA, all of you are training L&D professionals. right? A training need analysis not only at the employee level, but also at the employer level, right? It's okay to, I can give a bucket list of 100 training programs and I can float it across my organization, 10,000 employees, and see, okay, who wants to do what, right? It's important, but it's also equally important whether to assess if that particular training program which the employee has chosen will really impact him or her in his current role, or will it help him or her to roll up or move to the next level, and in turn helps the organization achieve the goal as well. So it happen, otherwise it will never happen, to be very honest, because in terms of a lot of training platforms in today's world, as Ritu rightly mentioned, right, in terms of Coursera, Udemy, and there are plethora of platforms, right, which are providing so many training programs, right? But then we always hear that there is a skill gap, right? It's again talent versus the talented, right? And employment versus employability, right? As Mr. Gowda said, we have to understand, as an organization, we have to understand what is the need of the employees who are working with us, and what is organizations need as well, right? It's always good to say that, okay, we have these training initiatives or engagement initiatives, but we have to really assess what is the effectiveness of those training programs, and only if we can assess that, we'll be able to have a very effective, curated, tailor-made training programs for our employees.
Excellent. I think that Devabrat wants to add
I
something.
just want to add one point. Like in our case, there is a Learning Apex Council, which is the Apex governing body. So what he has said, at an organizational level, there are certain key mandates that is coming to us. Like when actually we have gone for a digital transformation, we find creative ideation is one major thrust area. So what we have done across the organization, across the hierarchy, this is a common program we have to implement, and that has went very well because we have introduced the concept of mind mapping. So we have given them the guided mind map, and a lot of ideas have emerged. This is one level. Second level is, as he has rightly said, there is a defined path for learning. But what is more important is that people always look for a career ladder for the growth. They never look for a career lattice structure. Lattice structure means it may be your horizontal movement, maybe your spiral movement, maybe your different other developmental interventions, which you need to undergo, like job shadowing and other interventions, maybe reverse mentoring, maybe coaching, to upgrade your skills. So for identified population who are actually ready to take up the leadership role, or at a second level who are actually taking the departmental head level, they are not yet to go to the functional head level, we implement this career lattice structure where they are going the other interventions. So that has also helped us to bridge their skill gap.
So this is just a pilot that we are doing with the freshers. We had the managers build the JD. It's purely technical I'm talking about. Then we uploaded the CV of the freshers using AI, the ATS system. It threw us data around what the fresher already has and where there's a gap. Based on that, we are designing the training programs for the recent batch. So this is something that we were just experimenting, that using AI, how we can map the skills that they already have, where there's a gap, and what trainings we can build.
So, audience, there are lots of interesting best practices. I think I really liked what Devabrat said. The Learning Apex Council, it's an informal body which is sponsoring learning in the organization. And Ritu talked about mapping skills based on AI, using AI, and then Siju talked about not only doing needs analysis at employee level, but doing it at employer level as well. Great insights. This question is for you, Ritu. This especially the dignitary has called out this question for you. How to be ahead of competition while hiring talent? When there is a talent war that is going on, how can an organization be ahead of competition in hiring talent?
Okay, so to answer this question, lot of work goes around being ahead in attracting, engaging, and hiring talent. I think, in a nutshell, what it boils down to, and this is out of experience being 8 years in the campus hiring role, it changes. It purely depends on what you're hiring for. Are you hiring for skill, will, or what is trainable, what is not trainable? So you have to define your desired candidate profile, and it's purely depending on it depends on the organization, the hiring managers as well. But what is more important and what I've seen is that everywhere across, and all of you can also vouch for this, attitude is what they look for. The rest is trainable. I can technically train the person, but what they look at is, are they good with basic? Do they have the hunger to learn? Is there curiosity in them? And attitude. I think that's what they look for, which are more soft skills. Well, I know, and even when I talk to these freshers and everybody asks us, what should we do? I'm talking from the other side. What should we do to prepare for this interview? How can we crack this? The only thing that I tell them is that any hiring manager you talk to, they will only look for these 4 things. Do you have the hunger to learn? Are you groomable, trainable? Can you unlearn, relearn? Because you need to keep doing that. And do you have the attitude to take up anything that comes up? So to answer this question, define your own metrics. What suits you? What is that you're looking for in terms of metrics? And then what fits? I think that's all. And attracting talent, you'll have to design, customize engagement programs, because again, one size doesn't fit all. I have seen that in last 8 years. Every year I have changed my engagement programs, attraction programs, because what I did last year does not hold same, because the audience keep changing. So I think it's a continuous effort process which keeps changing, and it's purely depends on the organization, what you're hiring for, what you're hunting for, and what you define as your metrics, what you can do with and what you cannot.
Thank you, Ritu. I just got a note from the organizers that there's only one word which says KISS. I was just trying to figure out, it was a bit shocking. I was trying to figure out, then there is an expansion of this word, and then it says, keep it short, stupid. So, all right. So I don't have an option. Just have one question to everybody and then we'll wind up. And you have to respond in one sentence. What is your recommendation or advice to the L&D professional out there? In one sentence, please. Any order, anyone can pick up and then.
I'll try to keep it in one sentence. So what do we do, right? Just try to analyze, right? Let's not do it for the sake of doing it. Analyze, understand the requirement, understand the need of your employees and also the organization, right? Partner with the business, understand what the business needs also, right? It's very, very important what the business needs. And then align that with the training initiatives which we have, which you have in the organization, and then design programs. I'll keep it short.
So dear L&D professionals, please be with the business and the people both at their good time and also at their bad time. Please be the value creator for the business and also
Brilliant.
for the people.
The only thing I can say is that it's no more process. The way forward is experience for self, for candidates, for your learners, for your stakeholders. So experience is what I would talk about. And I think I've done a lot of work around it and I feel that makes a difference. So experience is what I talk about way forward.
Thank you, Ritu.
So in a one sentence, I can say that be very open and keep end result in mind with ROI as well as your achievement part. What do you want to achieve in terms of learning and in terms of enabling? So ROI will be the key aspect where it will help you to identify kind of a tool you can use. Okay, it will help you to optimize your penetration towards each and every segment in your organization, because the person who is dealing with a specific geography, which is let's say 2-tier city or 3-tier city, it can't be applicable for the cosmopolitan, but the same role holders are there. So it must be very, very person centric, not a holistic or a uniform thing. So you have to be very conscious and very flexible.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all the panelists, for your very insightful comments and responses to these questions, both from me and from the audience. And I would like to really thank you for your time and then for making this session really memorable. Audience, friends, learning is like breathing. Nagan Gowda talked about learning, igniting fire in the mind. Learning, not learning is not an option today. It is like breathing, it is life. And if you really want to make the organization lively, we'll have to make sure that learning happens. Something very interesting, I think Nagan was sharing the Dasa Gunas, the Gunas that really makes an individual powerful. But do our universities focus on them? Do they teach them? Do our colleges teach them? Do the L&D leaders teach the workforce in organizations? We really have to reflect on this. With this question, I would like to sign off along with my panelists. And thank you very much, audience, for the beautiful questions. The questions should keep coming. I was told there are some goodies for the best few best questions. So there is another panel after this. So keep sending your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.